Welcome back to Found in the Garden. I hope today finds you well. I'm excited because it is time to start planting and I want to talk about it. This is my first time planting microgreens too, so if you've never done it and you don't know, that's fine. We'll learn together. It's not a big deal. I'm gonna actually be planting some other seeds later today too, but for now I wanted to get this started. Microgreens is one of those things that I have always really wanted to get into, but I never have. We buy greens from Costco and it gets expensive, and I like the idea of being able to just have my own microgreens that I use for green smoothies. I got these trays from Greenhouse Mega Supply Store, and I really like them. They're really sturdy. These trays come in two pieces. There's the bottom piece, and this doesn't have any holes in it, and it looks like this. And this is what's gonna hold your water, okay? So you're gonna put your water in here, and then you're gonna use this other piece to hold the dirt and your seedlings. But the other thing you should know about this piece is they say that you can flip it over and use it to block out light if you are starting something that doesn't need light, or you don't want to have light for some reason. And then this is the other piece. And as you can see, lots of holes here. And when these two things go together, the water in the bottom and the holes here lets your sprouts self-water, which means that you can just worry a little less about watering. However, when you are first planting, you want to make sure you're keeping those seeds nice and wet. All right, so first things first, we need soil. And today I'm using something called Light Warrior. This is a seed start mix. I did a little bit of research online about how to do this best. And by a little, I mean like 17,000 YouTube videos and several hundred articles. The biggest thing that I could find was you wanted something that was light, so that the sprouts could sprout very quickly. Now, I bought this a while ago. It's been sitting inside, so it's quite dry. All right, so I have a good amount here. This is about what I think will hold in this pot, in this. So maybe 10 cups, maybe less, of super dry. And as you can see, this has vermiculite and peat moss. I don't need this necessarily to feed the plant for very long because I'll be eating the starts right away because they're microgreens. Next thing we're gonna do is add some water. Some of you are going to note a few things. One thing is that I'm in my house, in my kitchen. Yes, I am. This is the space that I have to start seeds. You use what space you have. Two, that this is a kitchen bowl. Yes, it is. It cleans very easily. This is not the typical pitcher that I use, however, I couldn't find my plastic one, so we use what we have on hand, right? All right, so we'll start by pouring in a little, and then we're just mixing until this stuff starts to take the moisture back in. It will take a minute though, because it was quite dry. You want it to be wet, but not sopping, okay? You don't want to pick it up and just have rain pouring from your hand, but you also don't want it to be dry. I went ahead and I used store-bought soil for this to help with any pests. This is gonna be sterile soil, so that's gonna help make sure that I don't have to deal with gnats or anything like that. As I'm stirring, the water's finally starting to soak into this. add just a little bit more. The most important part when you're doing seed starting mix is you want to make sure that it's wet enough that it can also then help the plant absorb water. So it's gonna be sitting in a little bit of water and it's gonna be able to absorb the water. If it's not pre-wetted, it can be very difficult to convince, especially potting soil, to transfer the water up. It can be a bit hydrophobic, which is funny to me considering what it is. All right, and we're just mixing with our hands. Okay, we're getting a nice good texture here. I can squeeze a little bit of water out, but it's not pouring out of my hands. I just wanna make sure that I'm getting where the water has settled in on the bottom, up to the top, and the dry stuff back down to the bottom so that it has a chance to collect that moisture. Oh yeah, that's good. I'm gonna take this now and I'm just gonna put this directly into here. I'm just trying to level this out just because it will be easier to harvest the most microgreens from this. Next up, we're going to go ahead and spread our microgreens. Now, I have two different microgreens here, and what I think I'm gonna do is just kind of plant them both in this tray to try both of them because I'm impatient. So this first one from Haas, they're both from Haas, is buckwheat microgreens, and this other one is Sugar Prince pea microgreens. I wanna say these were like, I don't remember how much these were. It's been a minute since I ordered them. So I'm gonna open these up. There is like a halfway mark on this tray. So I'm just gonna maybe I'll use my handy dandy little scissors, kinda cut a halfway mark to help me. And then it says you want to distribute evenly close together, right? So this isn't like planting starts. This is planting for microgreens, okay? So you don't need them to be super far apart. You're not trying to grow super strong plants. You're trying to grow microgreens. Okay. Just gonna kind of press these guys in here. Just trying to put these together, fill up any kind of empty spots or overfilled spots. And then on the other side, I'm gonna plant, so these were the peas, Sugar Prince peas, and this is the buckwheat. Look at how pretty this is. All right, and we're just gonna spread these along here. So microgreens are definitely one of those things. If you are eating a bunch of salad or making a bunch of smoothies, this is something that I believe you should be able to incorporate into your life fairly easily. We'll see. All you need to do is have enough space for these to get started and grow to the height that you want them to be before eating them. Now, if you want them to grow more than just their first leaves, you want them to get their true leaves and things like that and be a little bit taller, you're gonna have to add some sort of light element. A window would probably be okay. You might want something a little bit more than a window. We have grow lights, so we'll be just using those. And if I remember right, Haas tools had different sizes. I just chose these sizes because it was the smallest size available and I wanted to try a few varieties before kind of deciding what I wanted. I wasn't looking for a super spicy one. Some people really like spicy. I was actually looking for some sweeter varieties. All right, and now I'm just taking some soil and lightly covering these. I'm covering them, but I'm not worrying about, like, if you know about planting seeds, they need to be twice as deep. I'm not even worrying about that. Because again, I'm not trying to grow strong plants that are going to be planted out. I'm just growing plants I'm eating quickly. Growing things like lettuce, you can do that inside pretty easily. You need light, and the constant temperature inside should actually help your lettuce be tastier. Microgreens, that's something that you can add into your life fairly simply. I really like the idea of starting slow and small, making changes that you can make instead of rushing and pushing yourself and being overwhelmed by the number of changes you've made. I am speaking as someone who totally overwhelmed herself and made a huge life change last year and went from no garden or barely any garden to massive garden, okay? So I'm not speaking as someone who doesn't know, okay? Small changes are okay. Large changes are great too. Sometimes you need massive changes. Sometimes you do have to move across the country or, you know, start a whole new health diet, become a completely different person overnight. Those changes are okay too. But sometimes you don't need a big, massive change. You just need some small changes that can last. All right. Now I'm gonna set this under some grow lights. They're not currently up yet, so that's actually one of the projects that I have for my husband and I to work on tonight. But we're gonna set this under some grow lights. I'm going to water this 2 times a day if it needs it. Spray bottle it. Because I'm not covering it, well, actually I might. If I wasn't covering it, I would water it more often, but I think I might find my covers for this and just go ahead and cover this up to help keep the water in. Just futzing now. All right. Thank you for joining me today on my first ever microgreen plant. If you plant microgreens and you want to tell me some tips that you have, I would love to hear them. This is my first time, hopefully of many times, so now is a great time to tell me if you know something that I should do to make my microgreens even stronger. I will definitely be checking back in on these microgreens as they're growing, and you'll be right here with me to taste my very first microgreen smoothie grown from my own stuff here that I grew myself. I'm super excited about this. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. Until next time, let me know what you have found in your garden.